Brilliant, team. All right, well, we're live here with Jamie Stearman. Good to have you, man. How you been?
G'day everyone, thanks Solly, good to be here. Yeah, going good mate, going good. The warmer weather always makes everything a bit better.
Yeah, for sure. And, coming out of lockdown, you've got some time to get outside now too.
Yeah, and definitely trying to do more of it. The temperature actually is a bit rubbish in the last 24, 48 hours and moving forward, but better days ahead.
Yeah, man, for sure. So to give a bit of a background for this call, I've been wanting to have you on for a while because I think every time we have this conversation, we could turn it into another podcast. Just want to give me a little bit of background on what you do and why we're having this conversation.
All right, so my specialty, I guess, is I'm a mental health facilitator. I teach, coach, mentor in that mental health space. Both in the accreditation, I can train you up to be accredited, and also I deliver chats to different businesses and organisations that are just interested in opening that space up for their staff, opening that dialogue and really diving into what they know their staff needs.
Yeah.
And I think kudos to all those businesses who are capable of recognising and taking those proactive steps.
Yeah, man, 100%. And I think, it is certainly that conversation is becoming a little bit more aware. Obviously, through the whole COVID thing, obviously, there's all these push-up challenges and suicide awareness, and it's the conversation is there. But do you feel like it's gaining traction? Do you feel like it's missing a deeper message?
Oh, look, it's definitely gaining traction, in particular in the public in general. I try and personally move away from the word awareness when it comes to mental health. We all know now. We know that people are dealing with issues. We espouse kindness and all that sort of stuff as much as humanly possible these days. You can see it all over social media, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Most people are pretty comfortable in asking you, how are you going? My issue becomes, then what? Not enough people are trained up or ready for what comes next, because what comes next, if you open up the space properly and the person you ask that question to says, hey, you know what, I'm not doing real well, you need to know how that conversation should move forward. And it's not as simple as just, shit, what have I got to do? It can be as soft as, I don't know what to do next, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Or it can be, what have I got to do right now to keep you safe?
Yeah.
They're two very one end of the spectrum to the other sort of thing, but both pretty full on if you're not ready. And that's, it's pretty full on. It's when I teach this stuff, more often than not, especially face to face, the room's pretty quiet because it is a bit confronting. We've got to be careful about how we structure the question. If I said to you, you good? I've just given you the answer I want.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing real well, you're just going to nod and say, yeah, I'm good. You got to lead the question. You got to let the person answer. You got to shut up and listen.
Yeah, man, so powerful. And I'd love to get maybe an answer on what are some questions we should be asking instead. But I'll give you an example first. Like I had that question. Hey, Aaron, you found it good to see. Coming through with a guy I had that conversation with the other day, and I was like, how you doing, dude? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, and I turned around and I'm like, fucking you. And I was like, dude, it's okay to tell me what's going on, and just broke down, and just what do you do next in that conversation to make sure that I felt really, really, grateful to get that out of him. But, how do you handle that next,
So, congrats on two things: asking the question, not accepting the bullshit answer, and then asking the question again. Right there's a lesson straight away. You clearly recognize something in that person that just made a little alarm ring in the back of your mind somewhere. So you ask it again and you get that response, and that's quite common amongst men in general. And sorry ladies, I'm talking from that perspective at the moment. And we'll talk about that a bit later because there's a really interesting stat that will blow some people's minds around that. The male-female difference. But in men in particular are normally holding on so bloody tight when you finally get them to break that seal, it's an absolute release of emotion. And to be honest, mate, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that is enough for a person to go, hey, shit, I just needed to say something to somebody.
Yeah.
And so again, well done. What happens next, I guess, are those thoughts regular? Are you having thoughts of suicide right now? If so, have you got a plan in place? How are you going to do it? Have you spoken to anybody about it? You know, there's a timeline involved. If that person was to say to you, well, you know, I was going to do it this afternoon. Righto, I've got to get some professional help involved. You know, that's when you've got to start thinking about putting your friendship second to that person's welfare.
Yeah.
Now, you might lose friends over it, but you probably save a life. And I think that, you know, that's probably a bit more important.
Yeah,
long term.
That first point, even before you go off that one, is, you know, so many people are so good at getting that automatic response of, yep, no, I'm fine, I'm good. But when you know that you sense that bullshit, most people are like, oh, I've got away with it, right? Like I've dodged that bullet and I can carry on just keeping that internal. But when you ask a second time, they're certainly not used to that. And they're like, fuck, now I've got to say what I really mean. And that's what's missing a lot of the time, you know?
Oh, and it is, Ollie. And again, I guess the language is, you know, are you okay is a wonderful question.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? And that moment afterwards is the opportunity for you to shut up. Don't ask the question with an answer ready. Ask the question to hear the answer, and then let the plan unfold, mate. We're all grown-ups these days. You know, look, if you did nothing, and I've said this to many people, if you did nothing but call Lifeline, and no disrespect to any of the other cohorts, it's just the one I know easiest.
Yeah. And
I've been trained as a Lifeline counsellor, so I just know that in front of us at the desk, we take so many third-party calls. So say you, for instance, hey, I've just spoken to my mate, he's not doing real well. What do I do next? And they'll actually ring him for you, and you can do a third-party hookup. From there, there's, you know, a million resources on hand to take care of that situation. So that's still a win. You've still got that person hooked onto a counselling service and then forward referrals onto the next step. From that point, mate, it's just check in until they tell you to fuck off. You know, until they say, look, I'm good, I get it, thank you, go away. You know, I'm good now. Okay, sweet. Tell me why you're good. You know, you mentioned you were going to talk to your GP or your psych or your mum or your dad or your best mate or your wife, your partner, whatever the case may be. What steps have you taken? Oh, I've had the chat and this is now happening. Or, yeah, I haven't done it yet. Okay, well, I'm not leaving you alone until you follow up on what you reckon you're going to do.
Man, I think that's one of the things I failed with a long time and have learned the hard way through coaching, you know, and it's that idea of how's everything going? Yeah, man, it's good. You know, I haven't heard from you 3 weeks. Okay, cool. Like, what have you done? And you kind of get through that conversation. But if you miss that, you know, that initial interaction through email or whatever, you know, like I called a bloke up at work the other day. I hadn't heard from him for 3 weeks. And I was like, I know something's off. I'm just going to make sure I can get that contact. And until they're like, man, I'm good. I'm like, cool. I just need to hear from you, dude. How you going? And have that interaction. And I got this guy on the phone. He was like, dude, you fucking caught me. I've been on the bullshit stories for 3 weeks. Thank you. You know, and it was just that one call I needed to make to just be like, where are you at? How are you doing? What needs to be put in place? Because it's the overwhelm and the internalizing of everything that happens. You know, it can be, you know, from just simply being a little bit off to that, you know, to the level we're talking about here. They're slowly moving down that spectrum. The longer they move, the longer you leave them, right? So just having that check-in and bring it in earlier.
So we call that in the biz, we call that the mental health continuum, mate. And all of us sit on that continuum. It's very similar in your physical well-being, your mental well-being. Something that shifts throughout your day, week, month, year can move you from the green zone to the red zone and back and forth. I could leave the house having a great sleep, everything's working perfectly, and some dickhead cuts me off up the top of the street, and all of a sudden, because of all the other things that were in my metaphorical backpack, I just snap and lose it.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, well, that's really unreasonable, without understanding that there's a myriad of other reasons as to why I kind of lost my shit inappropriately.
Yeah.
And that can be a thing that then sets us down another dark path, mate. So anything can set us off, but the thing that brings us back is knowing what's on our circle.
Yeah.
And a lot of people talk to me about getting back on track, physically or mentally, and I've gotten rid of the track metaphor, because the track, when we jump on a train, we're on a track, we're going somewhere, there's a destination, i.e. a stopping point. So I bring it back to the circle. How did you slip off your circle, and what do you normally have to do to get back on it? And mate, you know as much as I do, and there's a reason we're chatting, is because when you start yourself on the circle, little things keep popping up. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times. Well, I'm not going to eat that hamburger because that's going to ruin all that hard work. My mental health circle involves walking, space for myself, breathing, connecting with other people. I know if I'm feeling a bit shit house, okay, what has slipped from my circle? What have I got to get back on the circle? And it's it's just connecting with the humans. Blue skies, fresh air, sunshine does all the magic for me. But sometimes it's a bit hard to remember that.
100%, man. And I'd love to come back to this male versus female thing, but I'd love to get your view on this first, where, I'm seeing personally, inside the coaching space and everything else, I'm seeing a lot of men being misdiagnosed for depression when there's signs of super low testosterone, right? And we know that hormones govern the way we both look and feel, and there's this constant like, here's just a patch, here's a fix, right? Let's just take a drug. And I think this is where it comes into that idea of just self-medicating or being prescribed something as to fix something, than really getting something internal that can, like as simple as the breathing, the air, the light, like you mentioned. What do you think about that? Obviously, there's both I don't think we need to go down the biochemistry side of hormones, but like more the awareness to focusing or relying on those external things to feel better.
So I guess, mate, we know uncategorically that what a big effect our physical health has on our mental health, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And of course, part of that is what we put into our systems. When we're mistreating them, we're really doing ourselves an injustice. And hey, guys, I am not an advocate for eating, kale shakes and all that sort of stuff. I do really well 80% of the time, but I'm also happy to have a slice or two of pizza when the opportunity arises. However, I have cut so much of that food out of my system that within 20 minutes I'm going bleh.
Yeah.
So my point on that is that our bodies are giving us all this information all the time. We just have forgotten how to listen. And that's a key. Like when you're doing something in the gym and your back goes bang, you go, okay, cool, I need to pull that up. Mate, that happens with our mental health as well. We just don't feel it, and we don't take enough notice. You can be walking down the street, and this happened to me not long ago. I bumped into a girl I used to work with, and I said g'day, and there was a bit of an interaction, and she didn't react the way I thought, and I really got the shits. And I thought, hang on a minute, that's not about you. Relax, man. It's all good. Don't let that moment spoil your moments.
Yeah.
So I was able to hear what was being said and just let it slide out. Once upon a time, I would have dwelled on that for days and days and looked for an opportunity to get square and tell her to get fucked. But it's all good.
Well, one of the things that you touched on there as well that I think is really, really powerful and has been actually a big part of my messaging lately is this constant awareness or lack thereof of these signals your body's telling you, right? Like, and this is a concept I took from Kerwin Ray, who actually one of our clients reached out and said, like, dude, you need to connect with this guy. And it was this idea of first you get the tickle, right? Like, oh, the knee's feeling a bit funny, or I'm feeling a bit more sluggish out of bed. You ignore it, you carry on with your day. Then you get that whack, something, it's that doctor's visit, you get in the scales, things aren't going so well. And if you keep ignoring, you get the full blown fucking truck, and it's just, how long are you going to wait for that signal to come through? Because it's going to get stronger and it's going to get louder. And it's just, it takes more and more to turn around.
So a few years ago, and this very quick personal version of that. A few years ago, I got quite sick. Should be dead from swine flu. I was in a coma for 2 months, and then again for a couple of weeks after that because I didn't get better. But after that, of course, the research and me being me, I looked at all the things and all the stats, and then it just dawned on me that I just had to pay attention. Yeah. My body, up to that point of getting sick, had been giving me all these signals, crazy signals. Dreaming about being at my own funeral, for instance, about 3 weeks before I got really sick and stuff like that. Like that's, if you can, your body's saying, hey, dude, slow down. Yeah. Excuse me. But now if I get a cold sore, and the sunshine generally gives me a cold sore if I'm not paying attention. And that's my first sign. I've got to relax. I've got to pull back a bit. It can be food-wise, it can be mood-wise, it can be health-wise. Either I'm going too hard in the gym, or I'm eating shit, or not sleeping enough. But I've learnt to listen. I get that tingle in my lips, and I instantly retreat from the world for a little bit, and just get myself, recharge my batteries in whichever way I know I've slipped. Because when I get it, I go, shit, you've done something you shouldn't have been doing. What is it? Okay, that's been on track. That's been on track. Oh, my circle. There it is. I've missed, haven't walked, didn't get sun, got too much sun, whatever the case may be. Cool. But mate, we touch on the food, the physical health and the mental health conundrum. My issue, mate, is the GPs. I wish and I know there are some here in my hometown. There's some people actually being prescribed to go and see an exercise physiologist for depression. Now, holy shit.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait till it's normal. Yeah. I prescribe you 3 laps of the block at 7 a.m. every morning. Sweet. Yeah. My doctor said I've got to go walking. There's some research around proactive businesses that are doing your smoko break at 10 a.m. They're taking their staff for a lap of the block, get them out in the natural sunlight. Yeah. That's a big thing for a business to take people offline. Yeah. Because the studies of their productivity has increased in 60% or something ridiculous like that. So much of this we know. Everyone says, the grounding, it's amazing, and meditation. These are newfound words. This isn't anything new, guys. We've been doing this for, eons. We just forgot that we liked walking around in bare feet. We forgot that we like to sit still.
Yeah, man. Well, I think that comes back to a big topic that we discussed earlier and we continue to discuss. And I think it's this constant need for finding a balance between, respect for the work and these projects and constant commitments you have, and just taking that step back to have that respect for yourself, right? And just being able to allocate some time for that. Otherwise, those other areas, 1, don't matter, or 2, you don't actually show up as your best anyway.
Mate, I'm sure I got this from you the other week. And it just said, if you don't get selfish with your time, then the other people in your life are going to slip. Unfortunately, who's the first person we neglect? And it's always us. Yeah. We all, as adults in particular, we all do that. We give so much of ourselves that I was going to go and have that massage, but something else has come up. I'll push that aside. Yeah. And when I do my mental health stuff, and the self-care talks and things like that in the businesses, I literally tell people, get selfish about that shit, because the very act of training, eating, moving, taking space out of your day selfishly to be a better version of you is the most selfless act you can give the world.
That's the one. Yep.
Because everything you take, you're going to give back tenfold.
Yeah, the big
Whether it be,
that I put on that post was like, if you're not putting that time aside for yourself, then you're actually not being able to give your full to others, right? So that's where that
yeah.
selfishness comes in, is you're not actually taking that time to put it for yourself, and you're showing up half best, then you're not really being able to show up and give the way you want to anyway.
And mate, the very first chat me and you had back some months ago was the same thing, you know, and my goal by connecting with you was simply to be a better version of me so I can be better for everybody else.
Yeah.
That's all it is. I know it sounds very new agey or whatever, but it's very true. I know when I'm operating at my highest self, then everyone else is getting a better slice of what I can offer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it, mate.
Cool, man. Well, there's one, I want to come back to that male versus female thing, because I know there's some interesting tidbits there. And guys, for anyone watching, if you've got any questions for this legend, let me know. But before we carry on, obviously you've been in that program a couple months now, and you've got some awareness of, you know, you've always had that mindfulness around the breathing and air and everything else. Is there one thing that maybe you've extracted out of the last couple months that you've added into that repertoire that's helped you?
Your nasal breathing when I'm out walking, and I've just helped that. I've found that it's helped kick the thoughts away when I'm looking for mindfulness. And I put a post up last couple of days or today or something. I don't do meditation as such. It's just not in me. What is in me is stillness and mindfulness, and that's when I'm walking. And I'm just able through that breathing trick to kick the thoughts away. Because when you're trying to meditate as such, and the reason so many people struggle with it is because the thoughts creep in. The thoughts are allowed to creep in. You just got to let them slide out again. Yeah. That's the problem. And that breathing has helped with that. So yeah, thank you. I've actually passed that on to my old man. He loves it.
Brilliant. Yeah, man. Like, it's just that, like you said, that consciousness in what you're doing. And when you're walking, you're fucking texting, or you're thinking about other things, you just bring it back to doing, you know, that one thing. And obviously you can bring that into the training environment as well. Like, I'm thinking about the tempo, I'm slowing things down. What's the muscle doing, rather than just slinging a dumbbell around? You know, it can come into so many areas to keep things present, for sure. One thing I'd love to know your thoughts on, and I don't really know where this is going to go, but I'd love to know your ideas with affirmations.
I love affirmations. I don't know if I want to stand in the mirror and tell myself I love me, because you know, I've got to deal with this when I'm looking in the mirror. So, but affirmations in, do you know what? I'm going to tweak it slightly, Ollie. I feel very wealthy, and I have no money, but I feel wealthy in that I have 2 children who are healthy. I have a car I can drive anytime because there's always petrol in it. If I'm hungry, I can pull a tin of baked beans out of the cupboard if I must. You know, there's never not food in the cupboard.
Yeah. And
that was not always the case when I was a kid. So when I go and buy a new pair of shoes, the privilege of that blows my mind. So I feel wealthy. I feel fortunate that I was given the opportunity to chat like this. You know, what a gift. I feel fortunate that when the sun comes up and I feel it on my back, that my mood changes significantly. You know, wealth affirmations, it's where you find it, mate. If you can just slow yourself down enough to enjoy your cup of coffee, actually taste it. What's it taste like? How's it feel in your hands? That's affirmation for me, I think. Thanks for throwing that in the mix, by the way.
Yeah, man. No, it's really interesting, because obviously that's less sort of affirmation and just like internal stories, right? And making sure it's positive, because, you know, if you look at the world and everything's shit and horrible, then you see that in the world. Whereas if it's positive and you're grateful for the cup of tea or that ability to go buy a pair of shoes, like, it's like, what a wonderful, incredible place. And you actually see those areas, right? And it came up the other day. It's like, you know, when you're looking for the keys and you're holding it in your hand, you're like, where's my fucking keys, right? And you've already told yourself, you know, that I've lost my keys, right? It's nowhere to be found. And that's why you're holding it in your hand, or you got your sunglasses on your head. It's those internal stories that block you from seeing what's in front of your face.
It shows you how disconnected we can get if we're not internal.
100%. So where I was going with that is this awareness of, a lot of the men we work with in this, late 30s, 40s, 50s, and they've been in this track of constantly bullshitting themselves on their ability to get back on track, right? And a big part of like the point of today's conversation was this mental and physical health being so interconnected, and they're missing out on that physical aspect that's affecting their mental health and that internal story that keeps building up. And I think the biggest thing that comes back to that confidence piece is this awareness to be able to simply keep your word and follow up on what you said you're going to do, right? And you start building that level of what could be unquote affirmation, but those internal stories, and actually building this confidence and momentum and being able to both increase your mental and physical health together.
Mate, it's so true. Look, I love the idea of being accountable to someone, but nobody is more powerful than me when it comes to my decision making. I know if I grab a biscuit out of the cupboard that it's bad for me. I can sit there and stare at it and know, do I choose that or not? I am my best accountability method, provided that I don't bullshit myself. And the older I get, and I'm getting on, the better I am at keeping myself held accountable and true. And that's the key. If I say I'm going to do a thing, I generally get it done.
100%. Cool, man. So let's come back to this male versus female. Let's give me some stats here.
Oh, so the stat is we know around men how many men take their own lives each week, and that stat gets lost in translation, and it's pretty horrific at the most of the time. What is often an unknown is that for every male that takes their own life, 2 females try. So more females try to take their lives each week than men. It's just that the men have more access to more lethal methods and make a decision like that. You go shopping, I see a pair of shoes I like, I buy the shoes. There's no thought goes into it. With females, generally their methods are less lethal, so they might take pills with some alcohol, stuff like that, and then they'll make a phone call, and then their lives get saved. So more women statistically suffer with anxiety and depression than men. More women attempt to take their lives each week than men. It's just not a very well-known stat because there's nothing at the end. An attempt doesn't hit the statistics. Only a success, unfortunately. What we know from that is that, and mate, I'm a massive men's mental health advocate, absolutely. But I'm a bigger advocate for all of humanity to deal with their mental health, in a healthier way, because it matters to all of us.
Yeah, man. So let's focus on, if you've got a couple of action steps, I'd love to hear, obviously when we've got to that point and being able to have that conversation is really powerful. But I think, one of the things that I'm being exposed to and nearly sort of falling into that I'm really loving is this idea of giving people back direction to be able to get back out of that hole, and where they're seeing this level of mental rut, typically it comes with a physical rut as well, right? They're not able to get out of that. And if we can start to create direction, and that's why, the thinking positive thoughts and stuff is great, but if we don't start putting and implement some action behind that and doing something for ourselves, being able to feel like we're moving forward and doing good in some way, then that can really start to latch on to how I can get myself out of that and move forward. But would you have any action steps there that if people are sliding down that scale, what we should do to move forward?
So it's such an individualized thing or necessity because our triggers are all so different. Our holes are all different. So I can give you some examples. Excuse me. I think simply put, the best thing is, what's the highest thing you can reach for today? What is the highest vibration you can get? Is it getting out of bed? Cool, let's do that. Because getting out of bed leads to making the bed, which leads to vacuuming the floor, and movement creates that hormonal release, no matter what the movement looks like. If you haven't moved for a while and suddenly you're moving, you're getting that hit, no matter what. So often it is literally just what is the highest point you can reach for when you're at your lowest. Reach for that.
Yeah.
And then reach for it again. And then reach for it again until that one's easy. And then reach for the next one.
Well, it comes back to those internal stories, right? Like I'm finally getting an internal win, right? And it's just like when there's been so many missed internal stories or missed internal commitments, and then you start actually making that first one and actually being able to tick that first win off. How can I find the second win, the third win, and just building that back?
Oh, mate, and the winning, goal setting is wonderful, Ollie, but it can set us up for such failure if we reach too high. Sometimes we need to absolutely reach for the smallest win we can have, and be happy with it. That's enough. Today, I fucking got out of bed and I sat in the sun for an hour, and then I went back to bed. Yesterday, that wouldn't have happened. So, hey, what a win that is. Sometimes that's enough. And you know what? The hard part is sometimes even that is really, really tough. But most people that are feeling that way don't want to. Most people that are considering suicide just want the pain to stop. So if we can just help them reach for the next highest step they can get to, then that'll be enough. Have a shower, for Christ's sake. If that's all it is and you collapse on the lounge for the rest of the day, sometimes that's enough. That can be the thing that kickstarts your circle, back on the circle, I've actually been chatting to a mum. Strangely, the post I put up a couple of fortnight ago, and I got 4 phone calls from 4 single mums with teenage boys that are sliding downhill, and the mums are lost. What do we do? They want me to take them to the gym, and they want this, and look, I want to, but it's hard. It's I've got my own family and all this sort of stuff. And one of the young blokes, I took him for a walk. We've got a mountain out here. It's not a big giant mountain, but you're alive by the time you get to the top. And he couldn't even come out of the house. So I went to the house and we talked through the screen door. And during that conversation, he come out and sat in the sun with me. And I rang him the next day. I said, do you want to come up the mountain? I'm not ready. I said, how about I come pick you up and we just drive to the mountain? While we're driving, we're talking. He's opening up. He's getting vitamin D. There's sunshine and greenery all around him. We go to the mountain. Do you want to go for a walk? I'm not ready. We drive home. The next day he rang me and said, can we go up the mountain? Mate, you can't possibly say everyone's going to react that way. It's just not how depression, anxiety, mental illness works. But what that is just letting him find his highest self for that day.
There's no external pressure, isn't it? It just becomes internal, like, dude, whatever you want to do today, let's work with that.
Yeah, let's take the next step. Whatever that next step looks like, please take it. And mate, setting an alarm, forcing yourself out of bed, forcing yourself to make the bed, that can be enough. That can be the trigger. And again, not by any means am I an expert in that area, because it's just never that simple. I've had my own dips. I think we all can find ourselves in the darkness sometimes. 100%. And when that happens, I just know that there are some things I have to force myself to do, which is walking, just moving, just get moving. That generally sorts it out. And then I start feeling better and realised I'd forgot to do that.
Yeah, so this is going to be maybe a hard question to answer, but I have had it asked for me quite a few times. I don't really have a good answer for it. So an idea with the more connection piece, right? So maybe we're doing less nights out at the bar. We're trying to sort out our health again. We've got those, obviously we know, the 5 people we spend our time around, and we can obviously have that conversation, but more the awareness around, like, I'm starting to try and make these positive changes in my life. And I know that the environment makes a big difference there, but now I feel like I'm secluding myself from everyone in order to feel like I can move forward.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I would encourage people to Do you know what? I had a young fella ask me a year or two ago, how come I know so many people? And I said, dude, when we walk up to the coffee shop, and, you know, I've lived here forever, so of course I'm going to know a few people. But when I walk up to the coffee shop, what do you see me doing? And he goes, I don't ever notice you until you say hello. I said, it's because you got your head buried in your phone.
Mm.
I said, so how about we make a deal that whenever you go to the cafe, you be the odd one out. Leave your phone in your pocket. Just stand there and smile at people.
Mm.
That's all it has to be. Someone's going to smile back. Someone will engage with you. Suddenly you realise that you're not a bag of shit, that you are a decent human, that given an opportunity, you're up for a chat, a conversation. It can be about the weather. It always is, that or the football or whatever, you know. But if that mundane action can often be enough to show people that you're still human. You know, smile, be kind, do a thing for no reason. You know, just do something that makes you a tiny bit uncomfortable and watch you grow, watch yourself grow.
Yeah, man, that was honestly, that was me for a long time, right? Like whether that be training or work or whatever, right? Like it was just like, I'm in here to do a task. I'm just going to get in here, headphones in, go, leave, you know? And like, I knew everybody that was training at the time. Like I'd pretty much be like, I know that guy's training chest on Monday, he's doing legs, but I had no idea what the name was and never talked to them, right? It's just headphones on, go. And as soon as I took that step back, I was like, okay, I'm just going to take that second to say hi. Or like I had a conversation with someone the other day, an incredible human. And just having that little bit more connection, you actually enjoy going to the gym for, it's not like a full social thing, you're talking about your bloody weekend, but you're just saying hi and saying a couple of things that actually put you in a better mood. And if you look at it from a chemical level anyway, you're actually going to get more out of your workout too, because you're no longer associating being pissed off and focused with training. You're actually like, it becomes more of a social interaction. I know the people there, it's a good vibe and atmosphere, and it becomes a lot more of an important association. So if you struggle with, and I've seen this happen with a lot of people in the gym environment, is like, the only way they could train is when they took 2 scoops of pre-workout and went and pissed off, right? And as soon as you change that mindset to, I'm working on myself, I'm doing something for myself, I've got great people there that I can connect with, it's no longer that internal battle of going to the gym because you actually want to go there in the first place.
And that applies in life.
100%.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
You know, you go to a cafe, a restaurant or something like that, and you get to meet some new friends. You know, how do I know going to the cafe, I've got my head shoved up my ass with the phone, that my new best mate isn't standing right beside me, and I miss meeting him for that day. You know, clearly sometimes I have to take a call or there's an important email or stuff like that. But my goal when I'm out like that is to make sure I'm looking and smiling at people. Look, if I go out of my hat's, you know, pulled right down and stuff like that, that's me putting my mask on. Yeah, I just want to, I'm doing what I need to do. I've got to get my shit done and go. But I still try and pay attention. If people want to give me a moment of their day by smiling or saying hello, who am I not to return that favour? You know, what's it going to cost other than a moment of kindness?
Yeah, well, that comes back to an initial awareness of what you can give, right? And I think sometimes when this is obviously, you know, depending on where you are on that sort of scale, but if you are feeling down, you are feeling not your best, the biggest part there is stop focusing about yourself and how can you help others, right? And just that simple act of giving is actually something that you receive in return. And that's something that can bring you out of that hole quite easily, right? Like you have that, you help the old lady with the bag, or you know, whatever that thing is, you feel fucking awesome afterwards because you're like the hero of the moment. And that's going to get you out of that rut. That's going to bring a new level of self-worth or just appreciation to the moment. And you know, that, like you said, that smile, that's a level of giving that just puts you in a great spot as well. So it is always, you know, both ways.
And again, mate, it applies to all the things, you know, those people that will buy one coffee, pay for 2, so the next person doesn't have to pay. What a wonderful thing. Yeah, it's $5 out of your day, and not everyone can afford to do it, but that's just a lovely way, a lovely soft way of spreading some goodwill amongst it, and that makes you feel, you know, 10 foot tall. Yeah. What a cool thing. Sometimes you feel like you can't get out of bed, but you got to mow the lawn. Go out when it's the sun, when it's sunny, or stuff like that. I often talk about the washing up when it comes to this. Sorry, mate, my throat's been a dick. No one likes washing up. Everyone fucking hates it. Yep. It's a shitty thing. That's why I had children, so they could do it. But everyone loves a clean sink.
Yeah.
All right. So quite often I'll have a chat to a couple of good friends of mine and we'll talk about the shitty thing we don't want to do. And I'll leave the phone, the conversation saying, go and do the washing up. Metaphorically, go do the washing up, which could mean for them, go talk to the missus, go play with the kids, do the thing. You gotta get uncomfortable to get clean. You know, we stand at the sink and it gets a bit shitty, and yet if we focus and if we're present while we're doing the washing up, we solve the problems of the world. You know.
Well, it comes back to this awareness of we're constantly doing the urgent, unimportant things, whereas the important, non-urgent things are the things that really make us feel better, be more productive, and feel like we've done something for the day, right? So making the bed, putting the clothes away, like all those things that seem so basic, but just make you feel a hell of a lot more accomplished for the day.
Oh, and it's just that, like you said, it's the big stuff's easy. It really is. It's the little stuff that matters most. The things you're surrounded by. You know, when you come home from a hard day work and your sink's a mess, then you go, well, fuck, now I've got to wash up before I cook. Straight away, you've put yourself in a negative mind frame. Straight away, my mind's going, righto, pizza, because I don't have to wash up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like something so simple. And yeah, I know you got to get up a bit earlier to get it done and all that stuff. Get fucking selfish. Seriously, because doing the washing up, if that's what we're talking about here, and again, it's a metaphor, doing the washing up, when you come home later that day and your sink's ready to go, your fry pan's waiting for you, life's easy. You know? You're ready, you're half prepped.
Physical tip as well, right? Like if you want to eat better, like start with that preparation aspect, which is just do the things you don't want to do. Put your clothes away, make sure you make your room, clean the kitchen. You actually want to cook that meal.
Yeah, just get out of your own way when it comes to that sort of stuff. That's me giving me advice, by the way. You know.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go clean the dishes now too.
Just get out of your own way so you can be your best self when the time comes. You know, if for me it's going to the gym regularly, and it's not really about self-improvement. It's about that discipline and consistency that I crave. Eating better because I know it makes me feel better. Getting sunshine and spending 10 minutes out with the dogs because they feel better and that makes me happy. You know, I work in some schools as well and seeing the improvement in those kids. My mum spoke to me the other day and said that her two kids were arguing about whether or not I would approve of how they were talking to each other. And I had to choke back a tear. It made me so happy, and it made her happy. You know, so what a cool thing. You know, so just get out of your own way so you can be your best self. So you can be selfish and then selfless later. It's a convoluted message, but it's real.
Yeah, man, just fill your cup and then you've actually got something to pour. Cool, man. Well, like I'm absolutely loving this fucking conversation. Like every aspect we've talked about, like just resonated with such a deep level. Before we kind of finish up, is there any topic that you're itching to talk about that I haven't said that you want to make sure that we cover today?
Resilience really quickly, because it's such a massive buzzword and such a strange word. Like, you know, I read a great post yesterday that just simply says, we keep training these kids up to be great at maths and great at English and spell properly and do all the things, and we teach them and drill kindness, and, you know, we don't clip them under the ear anymore and this and this and this and all these things, but no one's teaching them how to be good at listening to their emotions or speaking. You know, so all that maths and being good at sport and all that, fucking irrelevant if those kids can't manage themselves and if we don't encourage them to speak to us. I was asked the other day, would I train some educators in how to approach primary age kids? And I said, I can do it right now if you like. Talk to them, not at them. The end. They're people. These little people are people. Make them feel like they're people and they'll give you back so much it's not funny. So resilience, mate, me and you to this day, right this moment, have survived some shit one way or another. Resilience, our lack of resilience comes when we forget that. When we forgot that we survived all of the other shit that went on prior to this current shitty thing, that's when our resilience drops. That's when we fall. When we can recall and go, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to be okay. No matter what happens, the sun will come up tomorrow. I'll get another opportunity. Life will continue. That's how we've got to remind ourselves that we are survivors. We are resilient. And no matter what life wants to throw at us, we can deal with it through either putting our hands up and asking for help, or battling it internally, or just reaching for our highest self when we have to.
100%. Well, this comes back to that not the end destination, but the circle, or that continual journey, right? Like,
yeah,
you get to the top of that mountain, guess what? There's another fucking mountain, and it's just ascending those certain levels, or focusing on the areas you want to improve, and enjoy the bloody journey, right? If you hold your breath, get to the end destination, and feel like you achieved it, but feel empty inside, like you haven't achieved shit. You know, it's that. Put that goal there to make sure you build that character, you build that internal character to actually show up better and to feel like you've achieved something once you get there. Is so powerful.
And that's, mate, I got that from you with that mind-muscle connection when I'm in the gym. Because of COVID and everything like that in the gym at the moment that I'm going to, we're sort of jamming their workouts into us. I'm thinking to myself, I'd love to spend longer on this particular muscle or whatever. But, you know, I'm 48. I don't care about that too much these days. It's just I'm enjoying. And then I just do what you say, you know, I go back, okay, feel that muscle. And then, okay, you've got this weight in your hand. Aren't you fucking lucky to be able to lift this thing? You're alive. You know, what a cool thing. That really makes me feel emotional, mate. It's when we break it right down to that, and we're focusing on ourselves like that, you know, meditation it's already happening. We've just got to focus it back inward. That's all.
Yeah, man. Well, that last point, I think, you know, if everyone just brought that to the way they exercise, they get so much more out of it, you know. And I learned that from rowing in high school, right? And I was, you know, rowing at 5 a.m., sleeping during school, and then rowing after that again. And then guys, you know, you'd have a couple of guys complaining about it. I'm like, you're the one that wanted to fucking row. Like, nobody made you do it. And like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, I enjoy this, you know? And if you take that to the run or the weight session or simply the way you eat, like, you decided to want to make that change, so fucking enjoy it. Otherwise don't, you know? And it just brings that level of involvement and keeping that awareness of what you're doing and what you're learning from that process. Yes, it's painful. You chose that, right? It's like I put up in post the other day, like, you get that job promotion and there's extra tasks and commitments that come with it. Yes, accept that. There's a cardio you want to do. Yes, enjoy it. Like, feel the burn. And it just comes into all those areas.
We can't, there's no growth in comfort, mate. Simple as that. You know, there's not one of us that have ever grown massive biceps from watching someone else do push-ups. So, you know, you can't get good at doing nothing. You've got to do the thing you hate doing, do more of that, because you'll get better at it. That's just normal. Like the big message I used to give the boys I used to coach in the rugby, and where I live, we get snow. It gets fucking bitterly cold, and they're playing a winter sport, and there's mud, and you know, it's just sticking to you. And I used to get down and dirty with the boys, and I just say, this is rugby, and we fucking love it.
Yeah.
Or don't. There's the gate.
Yeah.
Off you go. You know, you've chosen it. This is what we have to deal with when it gets shitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the same thing, mate. You know, enjoy it or choose not to. That's cool. But it's another one of the things I've got from you is that when I'm feeling it and really focusing on that muscle thing, everything else is superfluous. It's a nice moment, you know.
Man, I've absolutely loved this conversation. I know we could keep going for another 2 hours, you know, to keep this kind of locked up. You know, just thank you so much for your time. There's a lot of guys, you know, in this group that I know are in a similar position to you, like helping others, pouring so much into other guys. And when we simply take that second back to just remind ourselves of stuff that sometimes we already know, but it's just, can we put that time aside for ourselves? Can we respect ourselves enough enough. And if we feel like we're in a bit of a rut, here are a couple action steps to get back up. So guys, if you're just jumping on now, make sure you rewatch this. There was absolute gold in there from Jamie. Amazing to have you on.
Thank you.
We'll definitely do this again, dude. And there's a couple thousand people in this group now. So getting that message out, helping you expand the stuff you're talking about is amazing. And we'll do it again soon.
Loved it, Ollie. Thanks for the opportunity. And guys, enjoy your training and keep at it. Stay on the circle.
Cool, man. See you later, dude. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you. See ya.